let's get cozy, grab a drink, let's talk about some books that I want to read next year. Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Bree and this is 4 Paws in a Book. Please excuse my voice. It is the best I have sounded in 4 days and it still sounds like this. But I want to talk about books. I want to talk about my 25 in 25 TBR. So you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. The sacrifices that we make for content. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I created a 25 in 25 bingo board and I will leave the announcement video up above where you can also join in the fun. There's 25 prompts and you put books to those prompts and that's what we're gonna do today. There are very few official rules, the only ones really being that you can't double up prompts, like you can't do one book for multiple prompts because it is 25 in 25. And also you can only sub out one prompt, but I've given myself a couple of extra challenges. The main ones being that I want these to fulfill goals that I have for 2025. I will have like a full-on video talking about my reading goals, my channel goals, all that fun stuff. That'll be later on in the month, but know that my biggest challenges, my biggest goals for next year are going to be reading down my own physical TBR, like it is every year. It's going to be continuing series and it's going to be reading diversely. And so all of the books that I have chosen tick off at least one of those boxes. Most of them came off of my physical TBR, with a couple of them being things that I pre-ordered or arcs that I have, things like that. And there may be like one or two that are coming off of KU for some of those more difficult prompts. Like I said, all of the information is going to be in that announcement video. I'll also have the Google Doc and the Canva link down below if you just want to click on that and go straight to it, make your own TBR. And if you make a TBR video or a TBR post or anything like that, please tag me in it. I have been loving seeing everybody's plans, TBRs, piles of possibilities. And that's what this is. It's a pile of possibilities. Let's be 100% honest. The likelihood of this exact stack being read for these prompts, slim to none, okay? If our fantasy has taught us anything, I usually substitute things out. It just happens. But here's what I'm hopefully going to be reading. The first prompt up in the top corner is a 2025 release. For this one, I'm going to be doing Adrift in Currents Clean and Clear by Shauna McGuire. It has become a tradition for me to read this book on New Year's Day. So that way I will be getting one out of the way right at the beginning of the year. There used to be a really big struggle, a really big dilemma of like, what should be my first book of the year? Because you always kind of want it to start out strong, that whole thing. And like there have been times where my first book of the year has been a 2-star read and you're like, well, that's not a great way to start the year. So a couple of years ago, once I started getting on the ARC team for this series, I started making it the first book of the year. And it's been going great. These are usually at least 4-star reads for me, so I kind of know what I'm getting into. I love the author, I love the stories, and reading a novella on day one kind of sets you up for success. It feels like you've accomplished something right at the very beginning. Kind of like at the start of a readathon, it's just the start of the year. I will be 100% honest, I don't know what this book is about. I don't know who it's about. I have not looked at any synopsis. I just saw the approval on NetGalley and I immediately put it in my Kindle. The next prompt is a one-word title, and for that one I have several that I could use. I have the 2 Hannah Grace books that I haven't read yet, Wildfire or Daydream. I'm not sure if I will get to Wildfire before the end of the year, so I don't want to put that one on there. And then all of Emily McIntyre's books are one-word titles. So this is Hexed. It's the most recent one. It's a very shiny, foily cover. This is a Little Mermaid retelling. And all of her books are this like kind of dark, twisted fairy tale or Disney retellings. And I've heard great things about this one. Is she chunky though? Like, she big? And I'm very excited to pick this one up. Next prompt is a book that involves travel. I made this prompt because I was like, this is a great New Year's tradition or a New Year's resolution. Everyone says they want to travel more. And so I was like, that's a great prompt. Me not liking journey books or travel books, what was I thinking? I do have a book though that will work for that, that I have been trying to get to for a while, and that is Caraway of the Sea by Madeline Burgett. This is actually a Utah-based author. I got to meet her at a Barnes & Noble signing, and I haven't been able to read her book yet. And this is Queer Pirates. So there will be some journeying, some traveling on there, as they are pirates. Honestly, it sounds great. It's like, you know, I think she is a aromantic bisexual pirate, if I remember correctly. I was pretty much sold after that. It is a slow burn romantasy. I believe that it's a trilogy in the works. but that's all I needed to know, honestly. And I bought the book, and now I have a reason to read it. The next prompt is a book with a number in the title. I weirdly had a ton of books that would work for that, but the one that I'm slotting in for right now is The 13th Child by Aaron A. Craig. Look how stunning this book is. And also, I usually store it without the dust jacket on because the naked hardcover is so gorgeous. But this is a YA romantasy, so it's obviously not going to have like a ton of spice or anything like that. And it also has some horror elements to it. This is one that I picked up for spooky season. I kind of wanted to get to it then, didn't get a chance to. And yeah, this gives me an opportunity to read it next year. And then the last prompt on the top row is a cover buy. Here's the thing. I buy a lot of books based on their covers. I have a thing for pretty books. So sorry. So I kind of wanted to like find a book that meant something as far as it being a cover by, something like that. And so I picked Beneath Black Sails by Claire Sager. And the reason why I'm calling this a cover by is this is the book that I bought at a Polycon, and this was a Polycon exclusive cover. And so that's why I did that. I walked into her line actually not really thinking I was going to buy any books when I was at a Polycon, but then she was like, this is an exclusive cover. It's only available now. And then somehow my credit card came out of my wallet and then I bought it. So again, pirate romantasy. We're sensing a theme here. Maybe I'm just in my Pirates of the Caribbean era. I don't know much about this. I have only read one other thing from Claire Sager and I gave it like 3 or 3.5 stars, but I'm hopeful for this one and I've heard good things about it as well. All right, let's move down to the second row, and the first one is a seasonal pick. The idea behind this is to read a book in the season that the book is set in. So you read a summer book in the summer, you read a Christmas book at Christmas, that kind of thing. And for me, I personally get the most excited about seasonal books during spooky season. That is when like I come alive. This is like a perfect time for me. And so I did not have time to read this book during spooky season this year, but that is Best Hex Ever by Nadia El-Fassi. And this is a witchy romance, but this showed up on my doorstep on Halloween, and so I didn't have a chance to read it for spooky season, so it gives me a perfect opportunity to do that next year. This is an absolutely gorgeous edition. It's the Afterlight exclusive. This is about a kitchen witch who has a hex on her that she hurts anyone that falls in love with her, and then a museum curator, and they meet at a wedding. They are like, you know, the wedding guest, wedding party, something like that. And, you know, he kind of falls head over heels for her, which is probably gonna be real cute. And there's definitely chemistry between the two of them. However, the hex still holds. So can they break the curse before it is too late? Sounds really cute. It sounds cozy, and just a perfect little spooky time. All right, the next prompt is LGBTQ plus representation. This can be the representation of the author. It can be characters, anything like that. I read so much of this that I'm not worried about fulfilling this spot. I have lots that I could use. Originally, I had Woodbourne by Heather Nix on my slot for that. This is a book that I picked up at a Polycon as well after I went to the queer romance panel, and she had sold this as a failed D&D campaign with lesbians. I was like, sold, say less, please give me this book. So this one was the original one that I had. However, this book showed up on my doorstep today. I bought it off of Pengo because it's an author that is going to RomantasyCon, and this special edition apparently is not in high demand because it was the same price as buying the original cover. So obviously I went with the pretty one. And that is The Prince's Poisoned Vow by Haley Turner. This is, like I said, the special edition by Bookish Box. Like, look, it's so stunning. And I was opening it up and I was like, wait a minute. This is queer. This is a male-male romance. I was kind of confused. I didn't realize that it was a queer book because there's 4 POVs. So it's the warden, the prince, the cog, and the princess. So I, didn't assume that it was queer, but the tagline on the synopsis says, from the author that brought you the Soulbound series comes a queer steampunk-inspired epic fantasy romance. First off, if you have been on my channel for any length of time, steampunk means House of Bane and Blood. And so if I can find something similar to that, but then make it gay, I might have found a perfect book. I don't know. We're gonna see. And this has been on my TBR for like my pile of possibilities prior to going to Romantasy Book Con. And then now that I found the pretty cover, the pretty edition, I definitely want to. I mean, look how stunning this is. So anyways, I might use this one. Like I said, I have lots of options for this prompt. I also have a ton of options for the next one, which is my favorite author's newest release. Like I said, the announcement, it doesn't have to be like your all-time favorite author, because who can decide what that is? Darcy Coates has a book coming out in February, The Vengeful Dead, which is the 5th book in the Gravekeeper series that I am definitely interested in. John Mars has a new book coming out in March that I'm very excited about. It's called You Killed Me First, I believe. And so I'll definitely be wanting to read his newest release. He has definitely become an auto-buy author for me this year. But as I was scrolling through Instagram the other day, I saw Alexis Menard's post, and she did like an updates where she said that Order and Chaos #3 should be coming out late summer. And Order and Chaos is the series that from House of Bone and Blood. So she is writing a series of duologies, so this will follow a new character but in the same world. I have no idea what this is about, no idea any details about it, but you said Order and Chaos #3 and I said add to cart. So for right now, that's what's being slotted in. Again, with being self-published, sometimes things get pushed back. I will find something for this. The next prompt is a hyped book. For this book, I am obviously going to be doing Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. This is the 3rd book in the Fourth Wing series, whatever that series is called. I am very much anticipating this book. I plan on doing a reread of Fourth Wing and Iron Flame prior to this one coming out at the end of January. I don't know that that will happen because I have so many books that I want to read before then. But I am definitely in the minority, and I actually enjoyed Iron Flame more than Fourth Wing, so I'm curious to see how my rankings will change based on a reread, and then also once the 3rd book comes out, because I do feel like the stakes are definitely getting ramped up and the tension is, you know, there's life and death stakes at this point. The last prompt on this row is Color of the Year. I am going to go with the Pantone Color of the Year, and that has not been announced yet. However, there is like a predicted color that is purplish, so I have lots of options if that does end up being the case, but I'm not gonna pick a book right now for this, but I have lots of purple books, depending on which kind of shade we go in the purple realm. Moving down into the next row, the first prompt is POC author. You'll notice I have a ton of Romantasy on this list, and that's because I'm definitely in my Romantasy era. If that happens to change mid-year, I hope it doesn't, because I have a lot of them on my shelves, but if it does, I might have to rethink everything. But for right now, I'm going to be reading The Emperor and the Endless Palace by Justinian Huang. This is an author that I met at Steamy Lit Con last year, and he is the most adorable person ever. He's so friendly and happy, and I listened to him on a panel, and this is his debut novel. This is a queer fantasy romance thriller. There's a lot of genre bending going on in this book. I absolutely loved what he said about it on the panel that I like immediately purchased this book. He didn't actually have any books there, so while I was there, I ordered a book on Pango. That's how we had to do it, because he had already run out. They had sold that fast. I know I'm quickly going through these books. There's 25 of them, so I haven't been telling you the synopsis of everything. I apologize, but let's keep going. The next prompt is a novella. For that one, I'm going to be reading The Imposition of Unnecessary Obstacles by Malka Older. This is actually a gas lamp sci-fi. It takes place on the planet of Jupiter, and it's got a mystery. It's like Sherlock Holmes-esque. I read the first one at the beginning of 2024 and enjoyed it. There was a lot going on, but I'm hoping that as we dive more into the world in this sequel, we will be able to kind of like narrow our focus on a few of, you know, the other aspects of it. I think that the first book had a ton of great ideas and the concept was fantastic. It was just that it was a lot of information for such a short book, but I'm hoping that the sequel will kind of help with that, because we already kind of know the basics of this world. The middle space is a 5-star prediction, and I have either Heat of the Everflame or Burn of the Everflame, whichever one I'm at the, you know, in 2025. I'm really hoping to get to this one before the end of the year. I just don't know that that's going to happen. We are quickly running out of 2024. You know, last time I checked, we have less than a month, which is scary. and I don't know that I will be able to get to this book. However, I'm dying to. We ended book 2 on such a cliffhanger, and I want to get back into this world, so if I don't get to it in December, then this one will be a quick read at the beginning of the year, and I'll be able to fit it on. If I do, then I will have to wait for Burn of the Everflame and fit it in here. I gave both Spark of the Everflame and Glow of the Everflame 5 stars. Absolutely loved them, and so I have no doubt that the rest of the series is going to be 5 stars as we ramp up the tension and the action. The next prompt is to read a comped book, so a book that has been compared to another book, and for that one I'm going to be reading To Shape a Dragon's Breath by Amanda Quill Blackgoose. This has been comped to like Fourth Wing meets Fireborn, which sounds perfect. This is about a girl who is at a dragon writing academy, a dragon writing school. She finds a dragon egg and bonds with its hatchling, and she is indigenous, and her people are delighted, for all remember the tales of the days when dragons lived among them and danced away the storms of autumn. Unfortunately, the school is run by the English people, and so there is definitely going to be a conversation about classism and racism and colonialism, and I do think that this is going to be definitely a tougher book than, say, Fourth Wing or even Fireborn. There's definitely going to be more serious conversations and things like that, but I have heard good things about this book. It's going to be more on the fantasy side, less on the romantasy side, but I have had it on my shelf for quite some time, and matching those two books together into like a marriage of a book sounds really interesting. And the last book on this row is a friend recommendation, and so for this one I texted the group chat as I was getting ready to film this, and I said, pick a book for me, preferably one that's on my shelf, and Cassidy picked A Court This Cruel and Lovely by Stacia Stark. It is a crime that I have not read this book. Honestly, a true crime. But I will be getting the special editions from Romantasy Book Con, and so I do want to read this and start the series before I pick those up. This is a political romantasy. I think there are 4 books in this series, and it has been something that has definitely sparked my interest. It has gotten so much love, so much attention. It's honestly a crime that I have not read this book. I'm gonna adjust. My foot was falling asleep. Moving down to the 4th row, the first book is a book over 400 pages. For this one, I'm gonna pick a book well over 400 pages. I think it's actually over 600 pages, and that's The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick. I own the first 2 books in this series. I think there's 4 altogether. I could be wrong, but I own the first 2. I definitely need to start this series. This is a political fantasy. It's got this like shadow nightmare magic to it. It sounds really interesting. I just need to get back into my epic high fantasy era. I'm hoping that this forces me to do that. The next prompt is a special edition. I have a lot of special editions. Remember I said that I love pretty books. So for this one, I decided to pick a book that I purchased a special edition for when I already had the paperback version of it, because it was pretty, okay? It was also my 5K gift to myself when I hit 5,000 subscribers here on YouTube. So that is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This is the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, and it's stunning. It's got these straight edges. It's beautiful. The foiling, I'm in love with this book. So that's what we're going with. I was like, how do I pick which one it's going to be? And I thought, again, trying to give some meaning to it when there were so many options. The next prompt is chapter titles. And here's the thing. When I was making this bingo board, I was reading so many books that had chapter titles, and that's why I thought of this. I was like, that's a great prompt. There's tons of books that are like this. And then when I was making my TBR, I literally could not find anything. I was like, what happened? Did I read all of them? I don't know. Now, the second Quicksilver book should be coming out, and I know the first one had chapter titles. It was actually the example that I gave in my announcement video, so that one could work. However, this one is my newest Illumicrate book, and I was flipping through it, and I noticed that it had chapter titles, and that is The Last Hour Between Worlds by Melissa Caruso. This is also a sapphic time travel fantasy mystery, which sounds fantastic. It's a star investigator and her rival journey through the layers of reality to save the world as they know it in this whip-smart adventure fantasy packed full of reality-bending magic, sapphic romance, and tantalizing mystery. But it actually doesn't even have chapter numbers. It's just chapter title. Pay attention to details. Ooh, I got really dark for a second. That'll work. This'll work. The next prompt is debut author, and I wanted to pick a debut book that was coming out in 2025. I didn't have to. I could have picked any debut author, but or any debut book, but I thought this would be a fun way to like shout out a 2025 new release. The one that I found, and this is by no means like set in stone, this one just sounded really interesting when I was looking up some romantasy debuts, and that's The After Hours by Aspen Anderson. This is a like time travel romantasy, and our main character has the ability to manipulate time, and there's only one rule: do not alter the past. We all know how well that's gonna go. It says, as she struggles to master her newfound abilities as well as a complex relationship with her mysterious coworker, something keeps pulling her back over and over again to the night where everything went wrong. Sloane knows she shouldn't do anything to change the past, but what if her future self has already made those choices for her? So that sounds really interesting. I'm excited about it. And yeah, this is the one that I have slotted in for right now. And then the next prompt is mental health representation. I have a lot of these as well. But there is a book on my self-destruct list, and I thought, why not kill two birds with one stone? And that is Business or Pleasure by Rachel Lynn Solomon. She puts a lot of mental health representation into her books, so this one was on a suggestions or a recommendations list. So I thought, you know, we're gonna try to combine some challenges here. I know very little about this book. I've had it on my TBR for a very, very, very long time, and that's fine. We're going to attempt this. Again, I have a lot of options for it, but that's what's slated for right now. All right, moving down to the bottom row, and the first one is Snake on the cover, as 2025 is the Chinese Year of the Snake. And weirdly enough, I have so many options for this. I have so many books that will work. It could be that the snake is definitely making her appearance in romantasy right now. I don't know, but I have a lot of options. But the one that I have slated right now is Lord of Gold and Glory by Lizette Marshall. This is the second book in the Fae Isles series, with the first one being Court of Blood and Bindings. I gave this book, I want to say 4 stars when I read it back in August, but I keep thinking about the book, and I keep thinking about the love interest. I keep thinking about the relationship. It's one of those like he'll burn the world down for her kind of relationships, which I love. And, you know, when you think he's a bad boy, but he's really doing the bad things for the right reasons kind of thing. And so I really want to continue on with this series. And the second one happens to have a snake on the cover. The next prompt is self-published. And again, I read a ton of self-published books. A lot of romantasy is self-published, or at least it starts out self-published. But I thought, you know, let's find one on our shelves. And when I went to the Barnes & Noble signing for Caraway of the Sea, there was another author there, and I also purchased her book, because that'd be weird if I was like, you know, they were right there next to each other. So I found To Touch a Reaper by R.R. Mangold, and this is a paranormal romance about a reaper who is, you know, in charge of taking the souls, and a nurse in a hospital ends up being able to see her, and that's not okay. We're not supposed to be able to do that. And so there's this relationship, this romance that starts budding between the nurse and the reaper. And yeah, it's a bunch of standalone paranormal romances that are all together in this bigger series, and it sounds really like cozy. It's like got this very much like a winter feel to it. I'd really like to read this one like either, you know, January, February, or November, December. We'll see what happens. Then the next prompt is new to you author. I could slate so many books into here. So I tried to find an author, like a book that I owned on my Romantasy BookCon TBR. I'll link that up above. Like I said, if you want to check that out. That way, you know, potentially I could read it before I go to the convention. So we have The Curse of Saints by Kate Dramus. I met her at a Polycon. I just didn't own the book at that point. And she is adorable. She's so cute. And so I would love to be able to talk to her again now that I've read her book. So that would be fantastic if I could do that before the end of February. I don't know that will happen, but I put a lot of expectations on myself, let's be honest. Then the next prompt is a TBR veteran. I am going to put on the book that I feel like has probably been on my shelf the longest of any of them, and that's Plain Bad Heroines by Emily M. Danforth. I've talked about this book. I've said, like, it's been on my shelves for so long. It was an ARC that I got, and I put it on my self-destruct list, and I had to read it this year. And so I thought, you know what? This deserves that TBR veteran place. It's a sapphic horror. I think it does have some fantasy elements to it. It deserves the TBR veteran place, let's be honest. And then the final prompt is a book from another challenge. So I'm going to be pulling a book from my R Fantasy TBR, one that, like, I cannot change out because it was a very specific prompt, and that was like a book that was written in the 90s where the author has also written something in the last 5 years or something like that. I can't remember exactly the wording, but I had Good Omens on there and I have not read it yet, so I need to read this before the end of March. Is that right? So I really loved the show. I watched the first season. I haven't continued on. But I feel like I'm gonna love this. I feel like it's gonna be a good time. It's kind of fun and cozy and quirky, but with this like supernatural, like heaven and hell kind of, you know, demons and things like that. I think it's gonna be fun. I think I'm gonna love it. It's a book that like I can't swap out on our fantasy because the prompt was so specific. So I thought it would fit perfectly for this challenge as well. Those are my 25 books that are on my pile of possibilities. Let me know if you are participating in this challenge. Like I said, the information will be down below. If you want to check it out, the announcement video will be linked and all of the fun things. I'll make it really easy for you. And if you want to check out the announcement video, it's gonna be right here. If you're not feeling chatty, do the champagne bottle because we're going to be ringing in the new year with a bunch of great books. That is all I have for you today. If you're new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little button you can do so down below the video. If you'd like to hang out with me more, the links to my Instagram, Goodreads, Twitter, and my Patreon are linked in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!